जय गिरि गोवर्धन गिरि गोवर्धन गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन जय गौरनिताय 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 जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णवंद की नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की व्रजभूमि वृंदावन धाम की नवदीप मायापुर नवदीप धाम की पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की गंगा में यमुना देवी तुलसी महारानी भक्ति देवी की संकीर्तन यज्ञ की गौर प्रेमानंद की और ग्लोरीज टू द assembled devotees और ग्लोरीज टू द assembled devotees और ग्लोरीज टू द assembled devotees all lotus guru and Sri Gaura Krishna Bhagavan Vishnu. So welcome today for our Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya class. So we are reading from the canto is not here. It's only the third canto. Okay. So we are on chapter 25 entitled Glories of Devotional Service. So before we begin, I would like to chant some Mangalacharan prayers to invoke the auspiciousness as well as to get the blessings from our predecessor acharyas as well as our presiding deities, Sri Radha Nilamadhava, Radha Giridhari Govardhan. So if you know the verses, you can chant along with me. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshuraunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Skadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakhanvitanscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrisabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णया कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरात्तुसे नमः। जयतां सुरतो पङ्गोर्मम मन्दमतेर्गतिः मत्सर्वस्वपदाम्बोजो राधामदन् मोहनो। दिव्यादवृन्दारण्यकल्पद्रुमाद श्रीमद्रत्नागरसिंहासनौस्तो श्रीमद्राधाशिलागोविन्ददेवो प्रेष्ठालिभिसेव्यमानो स्मरामि। श्रीमान् रासरसारम्भि वंशीवत ततस्थितः कर्षणवेणुस्वनैर्गोपी गोपीनाथ श्रीयेस्तु नः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते तमालकृष्ण गोस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So now you can recite after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nastaprayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So, chapter 25 entitled Glories of Devotional Service. So in the beginning I'll tell you a little summary, and then if you have any questions we'll take that, and then we will jump to our text 20, which is today's verse that we're going to discuss about it. So in the beginning of the chapter, Saunaka Muni has an inquiry from Sutta Goswami. You know Saunaka and Sutta, Naimisharanya. Saunaka is the head of 88,000 Rishis, Munis assembled over there. Sutta Goswami is presiding over he is giving the class on Srimad Bhagavatam, what he has heard from Sukadeva Goswami. So here Saunaka is inquiring about the Kapil Muni's activities after his father Karda Muni took the sannyas. And Sutta Goswami actually relates the conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. As you know, you have Maitreya and Vidura. Maitreya is the friend of Vyasdev. Vidura is one of the from the Pandava. 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 From the This Kuru dynasty. So we see many times in this Srimad Bhagavatam, there are so many conversations between, very exalted personalities, like beginning from Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj, Suta to Sonaka and Suta, Maitreya, Vidura, and so many. So the conversation between those personalities, like pure devotees of the Lord, they are very pleasing to our heart, to our ear. Why it is so? Because what did they do? They talk about Lord Krishna. They talk about Lord Krishna's name. Nam Rupa Gun Lila is a name, their form, their Lila, means pastimes, their beauty, activities, and so on and so forth. And also they describe about the Lord Krishna's devotees. And not only that, but they describe about the dealings between the two, especially the reciprocation between the devotee and the Lord, which is known as devotional service, which is bhakti. So that's why it is so pleasing. So here, Devhuti Mata, as you know, the daughter of Swayambhu Manu and Satrupa, married to Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni took sannyas, but before he took sannyas, he has finished his activities of household, whatever according to the Vedic injunctions. Prabhupada emphasizes Varnashram system, and that household life should be performed, or we should live household life in a way that is instructed in Vedic scriptures. So one time Devhuti remembers what Brahma told him in the previous chapter. There was a text 18 where she remembers that Brahma told her that your son, divine son Kapil Dev, will help you to remove your doubts that you have. And we're going to see that on that base, Devhuti is asking a questions. His questions is from 7 to 11, but we will just cut short into it. When he approaches Kapil Muni, Kapil Dev, her son, he offering obeisances. He also glorifies Kapil Muni, and then he asks the questions. The main questions that he asks is, what is the relationship between Prakriti and Purus? And what is the relationship between spirit and matter? So this kind of inquiry is very healthy, between the spiritual master and the disciple. We can see the disciple here, Devhuti, the mother is becoming disciple and son is the spiritual master here. You can see that. So this inquiry in Shastra, also known as Sadharma Pruchha, you may have learned that in Canto 1, Chapter 6, where Vyasadeva asking his guru, Naradji, some questions. This terminology been used as Sadharma Pruchha. Vyasaji's main question is that, what did he do after he got association with those Mahatmas, which is described in the earlier chapter. And especially, he asked him, how do you remember all these things? Because he was telling his previous life's history. So Vyasji was curious because he is a disciple, and that is the way to learn. Here we can see that Kapil Muni equally anxious to impart the knowledge, but when disciples comes forward and ask it, he get enlightened. So this should be the relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple, in that way. And in the beginning, Kapil Muni explains about his answer starts from text 13 to 27, where he explains basically about the yoga system, which relates the living entity and the Lord, and also it benefits the living entity, and it also causes detachment from the happiness and distress in the material world. So this is kind of things he is informing. And then he also says that in text 15, basically he explains the difference between the conditional living entity and the liberated living entity. Right? How living entity get conditioned because in contact with three modes of material nature, when living entity gets victim of it, he become conditioned. But when he attached to Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotional service, then he become liberated. His consciousness will be liberated. So this is the things in the beginning that he explains, and then Devhuti wants to know more about it, that how can she practice all these things. And then Kapil Muni explains him about the natural proclivity, which we will learn in text 20 also when we go to that thing, regarding attachment, also the desire, and also there is a difference between how one can engage his whole time in worshipping the Lord. So basically, Kapil Muni gives the message of the bhakti yoga, devotional service. And then later on, she again asks questions about, that is in text 28, that she heard so much about bhakti. So on hearing the statement about this bhakti, devotee asked that what kind of devotional service is worth developing. So she wants kind of an easy process, because she is admitting herself that she is a woman, she is Mandamati. Actually, she is not Mandamati, because she is mother of the Lord, but she is so humble. She is expressing herself like that. And she says that, please explain me the easiest way, how should I perform devotional service in that say. And then Kapil Muni, there are so many verses from 32 to 40, he explains about the yoga system in details and so forth, and also his mystic realization sort of. And in the last few verses, he summarizes the reciprocation between the devotee and the Lord and the process. So we have to see Bhagavan, Bhakta and Bhakti. Bhagavan, Lord, Bhakta, devotee. Bhakti is devotional service. They are connected together, So that is how we get rasas in that thing. Impersonalists will not get any rasas like that. But personalists who believe in the form of a Lord, they can relish this thing. So with this basic introduction, if you have some questions, we'll take it. Otherwise, today's verse is text 20, which we will jump into it. So far, any questions or from what you have learned? Okay. All right. So let's recite text 20. There's a lot more to discuss in text. Very nice verse. It's really, whoever have chosen that verse is so nice to give us knowledge from all directions. So nice to develop bhakti. So please recite after me. Prasangam ajaram pasam atmanah kavayo viduhu sa eva sadhu sukruto mokshadvaram apavrutam. Prasangam ajaram pasam atmanah kavayo viduhu sa eva sadhu sukruto mokshadvaram apavrutam. Please chant. Atmanah kavayo viduhu sa eva sadhu sukruto mokshadvaram apavrutam pasam ajaram pasam nana kavayo viduhu sa eva sadhu sukruto mokshadvaram apavrutam prasangam ajaram pasham yomudo viduhu sa eva sadhu sukruto mokshadvaram apavrutam prasangam ajaram pasham na kavayo viduhu sa eva sadhu sukruto mokshadvaram apavrutam prasangam ajaram asham viduhu sa eva sadhu sukruto mokshadvaram apavrutam. Anybody? Okay, so we'll do word-to-word translation, synonym. Prasangam, attachment. Ajaram, strong. Pasham, entanglement. Atmanah, of the soul. Kavayaha, learned man. Viduhu, no. Saha eva, that same. Sadhusu, to the devotees. Krutaha, applied. Mokshdvaram, the door of liberation. Apavrutam, open. Translation. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul, but that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. Please repeat after me. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. So, you can read the purport now.
Here it is clearly stated that attachment for one thing is the cause of bondage and conditioned life, and the same attachment, when applied to something else, opens the door of liberation. Attachment cannot be killed, it has simply to be transferred. Attachment for material things is called material consciousness, and attachment for Krishna or his devotee is called Krishna consciousness. Consciousness is therefore the platform of attachment. It is clearly stated here that when we simply purify the consciousness from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness, we attain liberation. Despite the statement that one should give up attachment, desirelessness is not possible for a living entity. A living entity, by constitution, has the propensity to be attached to something. We see that if someone has no object of attachment, if he has no children, then he transfers his attachment to cats and dogs. This indicates that the propensity for attachment cannot be stopped. It must be utilized for the best purpose. Our attachment for material things perpetuates our conditional state, but the same attachment, when transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, is the source of liberation.
Here it is recommended that attachment should be transferred to the self-realized devotees, the sadhus. And who is a sadhu? The sadhu is not just an ordinary man with a saffron robe or a long beard. The sadhu is described in Bhagavad Gita as one who unflinchingly engages in devotional service. Even though one is not found to be following the strict rules and regulations of devotional service, if one simply has unflinching faith in Krishna, the Supreme Person, he is understood to be a sadhu. Sadhu eva samantavya. A sadhu is a strict follower of devotional service. It is recommended here that if one at all wants to realize Brahman, or spiritual perfection, his attachment should be transferred to the sadhu, or devotee. Lord Chaitanya also confirms this, that lava matra sadhu sangha sarva siddhi hai. Simply by a moment's association with the sadhu, one can attain perfection.
Mahatma is a synonym of sadhu. It is said that service to a Mahatma, or elevated devotee of the Lord, is Dwaram Ahur Vamukte, the royal road of liberation. Mahatsevam Dwaram Ahur Vimukte Stamo Dwaram Yoshitam Sangi Sangam. Rendering service to the materialists has the opposite effect. If anyone offers service to a gross materialist or a person engaged only in sense enjoyment, then by association with such a person, the door of hell is opened. The same principle is confirmed here. Attachment to a devotee is attachment to the service of the Lord, because if one associates with a sadhu, the result will be that the sadhu will teach him how to become a devotee, a worshipper and a sincere servitor of the Lord. These are the gifts of a sadhu. If we want to associate with a sadhu, we cannot expect him to give us instructions on how to improve our material condition, but he will give us instructions on how to cut the knot of the contamination of material attraction and how to elevate ourselves in devotional service. That is the result of associating with the sadhu. Kapila Muni first of all instructs that the path of liberation begins with such association.
Thank you. So this verse is Prasangam Ajaram Pasam Atmanah Kavayo Viduhu Sa Eva Sadhu Supruto Moksha Dvaram Apavrutam. So Kavayo, learned people, Viduhu know. What do they know? Prasangam Ajaram. Prasangam, Sangha, attachment, and Prasangas, Prakreshana means very strong attachment. And Ajaram, Jara means to become old, like Jara, you may have Janma Vritu Jara, Jara, Kshi. So means to diminish. So Ajaram means it will not diminish. Like, so that means it is very, very strong and powerful attachment. This nature of the attachment is Pasham. So it is kind of an entanglement. Atmanaha, the soul gets that thing. So attachment is the natural proclivity. Like also desire is natural. Mind desires. Right? But as far as possible, you can give up the attachment, but it is very hard to give up. Instead, it is suggested here that it needs to be directed to sa eva sadhu sukruto. So if you direct that attachment to the devotees, pure devotees of the Lord, then the door for liberation is open. So how nice it is. Now we may have attachment, that is fine, but if we can divert it. Now normally our attachment is to what? Attachment is like to our body and bodily related things, any other thing like friend, society, family, country, all these things, So many things are there for attachment. So, it is suggested here that one should divert that attachment from the worldly things to the spiritual things, or people who have attained spiritual knowledge, or those who are devotees, sadhu. And we will see in the next paragraph the characteristics of sadhu, the lakshana is also given there. And one who associates with the sadhu, he also get what kind of benefit he gets. So at this point, we want to quite make our mind, as you have learned from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, mind is very flickering, obstinate. It is very hard to control. Mind is supposed to be subservient to intelligence. The 4 levels of hierarchy. Okay, beginning with senses. Above the senses is mind. Above the mind is intelligence. And above the intelligence is soul and super soul, like that. So, according to that hierarchy, mind should be subservient to intelligence. But we find in our practical life that it is not happening. Mind takes over the intelligence also, So it is also says that man, buddhi, chitta, ahankara, like chit means consciousness, So the chit is more even subtle than the mind. So chitta, as it is described, consciousness, also you find in Siksastakam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Siksastakam, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, not Mano Darpana Marjanam, So chit, consciousness is required to be purified. That is the main thing. And then we can achieve. Now, I would ask you a question that do you know any instance that you have heard that someone is benefited by transferring his attachment from material worldly things to the devotee sadhu? Anybody can give any example for that? The question is, do you know somebody in our Bhagavatam, or you have heard it, that who has changed his attachment from worldly things to the sadhu? Or you can say, when he came into contact with sadhu, he get rid of this material desire. Yes.
The prostitute that tried to tempt Haridas Thakur, she was, hearing the holy name from a sadhu, a pure devotee, and she transformed. Even she became a devotee herself.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
George Harrison.
Lord?
George Harrison.
George Harrison, good example.
Famous musician,
yes,
then did music for Krishna.
Example. Very good. Thank you. Anybody would like to share their thoughts?
Devahuti.
Devahuti. Yeah, right there. Very good. So far, so good. Okay. So, yeah, you may. Anybody else have any thoughts? Okay. So I'll tell you a few of them. Have you heard of Mrugari? Mrugari was a great hunter. So some of them you may have heard it. Mrugari was a great hunter, and he came in contact with Narad Muni. You know what Mrugari was doing? He was killing the animal. And he was not even killing, he was killing halfway. Because when he was asked, he said, the Muni asked, why do you leave? Why don't you completely kill that animal? You do only halfway. So his answer was that, I enjoy that. When that particular animal, when it is not completely dead, what is the position of that thing? So by looking at it, by seeing that, he was getting pleasure. So Mrugari was doing it when he was asked by Narad Muni. He told that I am doing it for my maintenance. How can I maintain my family? This is my business. This is coming out from my, forefathers. I am doing all these things to protect my family, to support my family. So, yeah, Shashi Radha. So this is one of the example. When he came in contact with Narad Muni, he also became a devotee. So that is the effect of the association of the devotee. The other example you can think of also the Asur Balakas, Prahlad Maharaj. If somebody have heard it, but Prahlad Maharaj has learned bhakti in his mother's womb. And when he was teaching to his schoolmates about Komaram Acharet Pragno, that. So because his classmates knew that this boy is something different, because he survived from all the calamities that Hiranyakasipu, his father, gave him. So they were very eager to hear from him. And what happened when their guru, Sandar, Amar, they were going out, Prahlad was teaching them, So with the contact of Prahlad, the Asur Balakas also get that benefit like that. Also you can think of some example from Ramayana. Anybody remember some example from the Ramayana?
Was unable to chant Valmiki. He was so sinful that he couldn't even say the names of God. It was repulsive. So they said, say Mara. Mara means death. Mara, 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 Rama, 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 Rama. And in time he became the author of the Ramayana, so much in love with Ram. So just see, even trickery purifies us with the holy name.
Very good, thank you. Another example from Ramayana is Sabri, if you have heard her name. She was attracted to Matanga Muni, and she served him. And at the end, what happened? Ram, if you know the Ramayana story, Ram came looking for Sabri. She got also benefit like that, in that case. Also we can see our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. Right. Now, Prabhupada gave association to this Western world, and so many souls have benefited, isn't that? We can see that Srila Prabhupada's purity attracted all of us, especially because Western people do not have even the Vedic background, or they don't know so many other things that people who born in India might know, But even then, because of the purity, because of the association of the sadhu, like Srila Prabhupada, they got that benefit. So the association with the sadhus is so important. And then the question may be arise that who is a sadhu, right? So here in 21, 22, 23, the characteristics has been given. Who is sadhu? So the text 21 is Titiksavaha Karunika Suruhat Sarvadehinam Ajar Satravaha Santaha Sadhava Sadhu Bhushanaha. So symptom of the sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, friendly to all living entity, he has no enemy, and he is peaceful, and he abides by the scripture. So these are the tatastha lakshana, or you can say external characteristics of a sadhu. If you were to recognize who is sadhu, these are the external characteristics, symptoms. We call it tatastha lakshana. And in next two verses, he has given the Swarup Lakshana, called internal characteristics of sadhu, how you can recognize him. Okay, so I will just read the translation to cut short. Such a sadhu engages in staunch devotional service to the Lord without deviation. So this is Swarup Lakshana, internal characteristics of a sadhu. For the sake of the Lord, he renounces all other connections, such as family relationship and friendly acquaintances within the world. So, and the next verse is telling that he is also engaged constantly in chanting the hearing about me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sadhus do not suffer from material miseries because they are always filled with thoughts of my pastime and activities. So material miseries are inevitable. You cannot. So there are three kinds of material miseries. Anybody learned so far? Remember how many? What are they? Three kinds of miseries. Material world.
There's adhyatmika klesh, which is suffering arising from the body and mind, oneself. Bodhika klesh, which is suffering arising from other living entities like animals or people. And then there's daivika klesh, which is suffering arising from the demigods or nature.
Very good. So, in the terminology in Sanskrit, they use Adhyatmik, Adi Bhautik and Adi Daivik, right? As he has explained, Adhyatmik is related to body and mind, and Adi Daivik is related to natural disasters, and Adi Bhautik is related to other living entity, both living entity. Could be anyone, living entity could be your friend, can be your family members, can be insect, can be snake, can be neighbor, anybody you can name it as a living entity. So that's material miseries about it. Yeah. So, in short, it is explained here that the association of the sadhu is like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also in Chaitanya Charitamrita describes the 5 potent items, right? In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, basically Rupa Goswami, but he got it from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Right? Rupa Goswami wrote this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. There is a 5 potent item. Anybody remember those 5 potent items you may have heard so far? 5 potent items. There are 64 devotional services, but 5 are very potent items. Yes.
I got one, being enthusiastic. Isn't that?
What is it?
I think it's chanting, hearing. Chanting and hearing.
A little louder.
Chanting, hearing.
What you said, chanting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hearing Bhagavatam. Oh, that's second. What is it? Associating with saintly persons.
What is it?
Sadhu Sangha. Is that one? Worshipping the deity. It's like right here. Worshipping the deity.
Worshipping the deity, very good.
Oh yes, residing in a holy place.
Residing in a holy place, very good. Nice.
There's one more, I don't know.
Did you say association?
Yes.
Okay. And then reading Bhagavatam?
Yeah.
Which you do every day? Right? Yeah. So summarize 5 of them is association of the devotee, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting the holy name, residing in holy dham, deity worship. Right? Clear? So these 5 items are very potent. And out of that, if you associate with someone, you get all 4 of them with him. If you really associate with a pure devotee, you're going to read Bhagavatam with him. You're going to chant with him. You're going to live in holy dham with him. He will teach you how to do deity worship. So, very potent. Association is very, So that's why I say, asat sanga tyag, right? A Vaishnava achar. That is the main qualification of a Vaishnava is he should live asat sanga. Asat sanga means sang which is materially attached person. That sang is also Updesamrat. Sanga tyagat sato vrutte. Rupa Goswami, there is a nectar of devotion, nectar of instruction book, Updesamrat. It is also mentioned there. Okay. So, these are the things. So, here, basically, we have to see another point about how Kapil Muni here advising his mother, Devhuti, that you have to associate with the devotees in order to remove your doubts. And another thing is mentioning Mad Asraya Katham Rusta Srunavanti Kathayanti. So when you hear about it and when you talk about it, that is also, there is a one verse in Bhagavad Gita, you reading Bhagavad Gita, I'm sure you're reading Bhagavad Gita, there is one of the seed verses which tells you about the reciprocation between the devotees. Anybody remember that verse? Huh? Madjitta madgata prana bodhayantah parasparam, right? Very good. Kathayantasya mam nityam tusyanti cha ramanti cha, right? Tusyanti, they get satisfied, satisfaction. Satisfaction is the key, you know. If you are not satisfied, you will not be happy, right? And ramanti, blissful. In our sadhana also, of course, we should not, but we need to be satisfied with whatever we get by the mercy of Krishna, because it is said that Lord makes the plan for his devotees. It is not that we make our plan. He makes plan. Because, why? Because we have surrendered our life at the time of initiation, Diksha, right? So, at the time of initiation, we surrender ourselves. So, at the same time, the sinful activities will be removed from the devotee, you know. So he will be bereft of all sinful activities that he has done. But the process is that if one takes this initiation in a bona fide sampradaya with a bona fide guru, this process happens like, it's a very subtle process, but we have to depend on the guru. And guru gives all these instruction, information, detail about devotional service and so forth, you know. For that also, between the guru and a disciple, very nice one sloka in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 4. Clicks to anyone? Yeah. Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, verse 34. Hint. What is that verse? Very famous verse. You may have heard it.
Was it Tadvidi Pradipatena Pariprashena Sevaya Te Jnanam Jnanina Statvadarshana.
Very good. Tadvidhi. So this is the process. Tadvidhi. Pranipat Pariprasna Sevaya. Very important terms you have to remember. Pranipat means to surrender. Pariprasna means you can ask questions. But it is said it should be submissive inquiry. It is not in a challenging way. You have to learn that how to ask submissively. So surrendering, submissive inquiry, and that should be also with service attitude. You have to serve your guru, you have to serve your mentor, you have to serve your superior to get the benefit of it. Because they are tattvadarshi, so they can impart that knowledge to you. So pranipat pariprasna sevaya upadekshanti jnana jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. They are tattvadarshi. Tattva means truth. There are so many tattvas. Jiv tattva, Shiv tattva, Guru tattva, Vishnu tattva. You know, Jiv Goswami has written tattva sandarbha. So it's more and more you can learn about this truth. The param tattva is satyam param dhimahi, as we learn in the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Satyam param dhimahi. About that thing. Janmadiyasya tanvaritaras charthe su abhigna swarat. Tene brahmadayadi kave muhyanti yat surayaha. Tejo vari mrudam yatha vinimayo. And it says in the last line that Satyam param dhimahi. Means the absolute truth is truth. And that tattvataha, we need to know tattvataha. In order to know tattvataha, you need to reach to tattvagna. Gna means one who knows. Tattva, one who knows the tattva, you have to approach him, in that way. Okay? So, only few minutes left. I will leave it for your realization. What you have learned from today's lecture or maybe previous lecture, so far you have finished. You are on 25 chapter of Canto 3, so Canto 1, Canto 2, Canto 3. You are progressing very nicely. So what is your realization or your...
A lot is that devotees are holy places of pilgrimage personified. This means that they carry the Lord within them.
Hard.
And a lot of us have some reservations with approaching God or approaching some supreme being. It seems a little far-fetched or hard to relate to or scary. So when we look into the eyes of a devotee, someone who holds the Lord in their heart, it's an easy way to connect. Because people, they're in our lives, we see them acting, we see their kindness, it's close. It's close to us. And compassion, I find, sometimes is easier to be invoked by people in our lives. So I would encourage everyone and myself to really open their hearts to people that they trust, to accept people that we trust, like, hey, this person actually means something to me. This person actually makes me feel very, very calm and protected and spiritual. It makes me feel like a part of the family. So grab onto that person and ask that person questions and reveal your heart to that person and actively trust that person. This is an active process. This is moving forward towards Krishna. So those places and people and activities that really help us feel a part of the family, it's our job to pursue that. So this verse, it helps us to remember attachment, like you're saying, attachment to the things that connect us to Krishna is the way to get out of our attachment to the things that keep us away from Krishna. So I just want to encourage that when we feel that connection, when we feel that protection, when we feel that interest in someone or something spiritually, accept that, recognize that, acknowledge that, pursue that. That's special, that's wonderful, that's amazing, that's unique, that's you. Go for that, look at that. Krishna's there.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else?
I was appreciating the fact that this verse was saying, and yesterday's class and today's class, the point has been brought up that, yeah, we have teachers who we ask questions to, but that we need to serve them. Because otherwise it can turn into like, here's somebody who has knowledge, and for my sense gratification, I'm asking questions to stimulate my intellect. But if I'm not offering service to them, then I'm missing out on a great opportunity to advance and get the association of Krishna in that way.
Very good. Any other reflection? You all need to speak something.
I appreciated the language in chapter 24 that said, he will vanquish the knot of your heart. You know, Kapila will vanquish the knot in Devahuti's heart by knowledge. And I was thinking of the way that which we, there's so much mercy around us that we get to take advantage of. And it's really up to us. Like Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya have opened the doors to so much knowledge and so much depth and realization and divine love and open the doors back to Godhead, So it's really just our responsibility to milk that, like take all these opportunities for associating with devotees. I think there's a verse in CC that says like one should, seek out the association of a pure devotee even if they have to crawl. Yeah. So we should have that eagerness, to hear and chant and associate with devotees, because this is just such grace and mercy that we have at our fingertips.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else? Jai Shri Shri Radha Lil Madhav ki Jai, Shri Sada Giridhari ki Jai, Giri Govardhan ki Jai, Gai Nita Gora Chandra Chandra ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So we'll end the session here. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrand ki, Hari Hari Bol.
So just a little announcement, devotees. Sudevi is missing her bead bag. It's a dark green bead bag. It was in a red gift bag a few days ago, and it was left outside, just outside the Prasadam hall doors. And then it was put there, it was left for maybe an hour, and then it disappeared. So if you've seen a dark green bead bag that was in a red gift bag or something, please let me know. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.